Now, at the risk of being flagged by YouTube again, because I've already had a video taken down that was somewhat on this topic, and it was actually pretty old. It was like from last year or something. I woke up this morning to see vaccine injuries trending on Twitter. And when I clicked on it, there were a lot of people talking about Justin Bieber and his wife and how they have seem to have certain neurological problems, and people were tying this to vaccines, which I won't do, of course, because that is against YouTube's terms of service, apparently. So I definitely won't say that. I am not a doctor. I've never examined Justin Bieber and his wife. No way, no how. But while perusing this hashtag on Twitter, I noticed another term that I've been seeing more and more lately, and that is SADS. And I thought, oh, what is this? Is this a term to refer to acute depression? You know, oh, you've got a case of the SADS? No, apparently it's sudden adult death syndrome. And this piqued my interest, because I thought, well, gee, how does someone just, die suddenly? What kind of syndrome is that? What's the underlying cause? They're not calling it anything in particular. They're not tying it to any sort of specific phenomenon. They just call it, well, it's a sudden adult death. I mean, you normally think of something like that as being the cause of death, but the cause of your death can't be death. That's a circular logic. But apparently, they call it that because doctors are baffled, they say. They have no idea what's killing these young people. But they are encouraging people under 40, according to the Daily Mail, to go get their hearts checked. Now, that's strange. Where have I heard that before? I seem to recall some official studies conducted, or a big study conducted by Pfizer. And a lot of, data and information from other sources that I discussed last year, which I don't want to get in trouble for discussing now, but it seemed to tie an increased risk for heart issues and even cardiac-related death to a particular medicine which was administered quite broadly across the entire Western population. Now, all of a sudden, this year, we are being made aware that there is this new phenomenon that we need to worry about, this sudden adult death syndrome, which is totally unexplained, other than apparently being linked to certain cardiac events. People's hearts just stop, seemingly healthy people who exercise all the time, very vain young people who want to look their best and feel their best and eat all of the organic foods that, the media tells them to consume. And of course, these very same young people are prone to have taken the medicine that was prescribed to them by the media in popular advertisements that were broadcast all across the world, really, but most, I think, specifically, we're talking about the Western world. That's where we're getting this information and this data. We don't know anything about SADS in China. We're not getting reliable data and medical information out of that country. So it seems like something worth investigating. It seems like the sort of thing that you would expect if people who took this medicine were to in fact suffer the side effects that the more conspiratorially minded among us warned of. Honestly, I'm not sure what else I can talk about here. I don't think that there's anything else that I'm really allowed to say on this platform. But in this case, I think that's okay, because, we don't know that much for sure, and I think I've probably gotten my point across on the matter. Since I seem to have extra time left over now, which I never do, I think I'll give a bit of an update on my thoughts on the war in Ukraine. I haven't talked about Ukraine a ton lately because, really, it's just following the day-by-day battle stuff and, the movement of the positions, which I do, but it's not the kind of thing that I know enough about to speak intelligently on this channel, so I leave that up to other people. But to give a summary of my thoughts on the situation, where it's going, the Ruskies leaked to their own media. They have their anonymous sources, so you never know, just like with anonymous sources here in the U.S., if that's supposed to be telling you what the government's position is, or if it's some kind of psyop. But it seems that the Ruskies are willing to offer the Ukrainians peace if they accept essentially where the battle lines are now, or not even really, accept the provinces that are currently largely under, the Oblast currently under Russian control, except the Crimea is gone, except the Donbass is gone, except that now, I don't know if it's how you say it, Kherson or Kherson. It has a K, but I always hear people, pronounce it without the K. And Zaporozhye, which is where that nuclear power plant was, where the media was saying, oh my gosh, the Ruskies are trying to, create Chernobyl 2.0. But in Russian media, they're saying that the Russian government would accept, a surrender of Ukraine and end the war if they just agree to give up, everything essentially that Russia has conquered so far. And if they refuse that, then presumably the Ruskies would go on to take Odessa, march all the way to Transnistria, which I think is probably what's going to happen anyway. That seems to have been the case for a long time. And probably take Kharkov and, march all the way to the Dnieper River. And so I tend to think that this story about them offering this peace, I mean, it's an offer that they know that the Kiev government is going to refuse anyway, because, at this point the Kiev government might accept giving up Donbass, but they're not going to accept, Kherson and Zaporozhye. So it's a win-win for Russia, even though they would like more territory. That is, if they could get the Ukrainians to sign a piece of paper saying, we accept, you control all of this, that puts the Ruskies in a pretty strong position moving forward. But considering that it's almost guaranteed that Kiev will reject these terms, they can go on and grab even more territory and eventually take everything that they want. And more leaders in the West are beginning to accept that. You hear the language softening. This talk about, Ukraine turning things around and marching their way, not only pushing the Russians back into Russia, but marching all the way to Moscow and conquering their country. That's pretty much gone for most of the big players. The pivot started with Kissinger a couple weeks ago when Henry Kissinger said, yeah, the way that this war is going to end is Ukraine's going to have to give up some territory. I think at that point, Kissinger was hoping, maybe the Ukrainians could just get away with only giving up Donbass. But that's not the case at this point. The Ruskies, I think, have made it clear that they're going to demand more than Donbass. And, they want whatever the peace deal is, they want it to be equally painful, no matter, when it comes. So now that the Ruskies have come this far and the Ukrainians would accept giving up just Donbass, the Ruskies are going to want more than that, because they're going to want to inflict the same amount of pain that the Ukrainians would have felt by giving up Donbass, a month or two ago, or a month ago, I guess. Or really, 3 months ago, whatever. Now, since the Ukrainians in their minds have kind of already ceded Donbass and accept that they're not going to get it back, and same with Crimea, now the Ruskies are going to say, okay, give us all that plus more. They're always going one or two steps ahead of where the Ukrainians are willing to, concede. And so that makes the Russians look somewhat reasonable, because they are offering, an out to end the war. But it also, is tough enough that it allows them to continue waging the war and conquering more territory. And so unless something changes, that's exactly what's going to happen. They're just going to continue slowly marching and taking over more territory until they have everything they want, and then they will stop on their own, and they'll just stop advancing. They'll just plant their flag, like they have in Kherson and Zaporozhye. In Kherson, they fly the Russian flag, use the Russian ruble. They have, their own government there that they installed. There's an interview with a member, one of the members of that Russian government, on Patrick Lancaster's channel today. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.